Good morning, everyone.
Good morning,
Good
Rabbi.
morning, Rabbi.
We are learning
Good morning,
Mishnah.
everyone.
We are learning Mishnah Shabbos, Perek Chaf Beis, chapter 22, Mishnah Dala, Mishnah 4. I'd like to dedicate this morning's learning memory of my mother, Mr. Shlomis Rabinowitz, Shlomis Bas Rabbi Yaakov Eliezer. Okay. Noisnin Tavshel Asay Chabar Bishvel Sheyehei Shamar. You have a cooked food, and they didn't have refrigerators then. So they would put it into the ground. They say there's some kind of a hole in the ground. The ground is cooler, and they would put the food in there to keep it cool, to be able to preserve it.
They put a box in the ground.
Okay. So the point is that they wanted, this is in order to protect it from spoiling during the daytime. So the Mishnah says there is no problem putting this cooked food into the pit so that it should be guarded. Now, why would I think there should be a problem? So the explanation is, and this will be a little bit different than what you just said, Martin. The problem would be that we might have thought that maybe you wouldn't be allowed to put the food onto the pit on the ground because you may want to smooth out the ground, even out the ground, so it should be steady. We might think that we should be concerned for that, and therefore say you cannot do that on Shabbos, and therefore the Mishnah says that no, you may, and we're not concerned. Next, or good water, meaning drinkable water, you want to immerse it in non-drinkable water in order that it should cool off. Anything wrong with that? Absolutely not. But we're saying it because it's kind of a lead into the next case. But this case is, and I'm assuming that it was done in such a manner where drinkable water was cooled down and non-drinkable water, you wanted to put the other thing in the drinkable water, maybe get it dirty or something another like that. But the point is that you can do that on Shabbos. Now, that's hatzainain becham b'shvel sheyechamu. Now, let's say you have something that is cold, cool water, and you want to put it in the sun so that it should warm up. Okay?
Say that again, please.
You're putting cold water into this under the sun, in the sunlight. You want the sun to be able to cool it off. Something difficult about that?
Why would the sun cool
To
down?
cool, I'm sorry, right? Good point. Okay, now I understand. You're looking at me like you want to warm it up. Yeah, of course. What do you think? Okay, you're putting it into the sun in order to warm it up. All right, you can do that. Now, what's the question about that? So here the question would be like this. We may not warm up things on Shabbos on the fire or anything heated up by the fire. Like let's say you have a hot piece of metal, right? And now you want to put something cold right next to it to warm up. You can't do that. Something that was warm, you cannot warm up something next to the fire or by something heated up by the fire. Now the question is, you want to warm it up in the sun. So, the sun is not fire. It's not the fire. It's not the regular fire. But maybe you should be concerned that if one would be allowed to warm up something cold by the sun, that they might think it could warm up by anything that's not fire, that's not direct fire. And what they might think you could do is to immerse something cold in hot ash. Now, hot ash was warmed up by fire. There's no fire there. And therefore, you might think that if I can warm it up in the sun, that I can warm it up in the ash. Then, of course, you cannot, because that's heated up by fire. It may not be fire, but it's heated up by fire. So we say that it's not a concern. You are allowed to go ahead and warm up something directly in the sun. And we're not
magnifying glass.
I didn't say that. I just said in the sun.
Okay.
Okay. You're going ahead and putting it under. You're putting it outside, sunlight, heat. That's what's going to go. The sun's heat is going to warm it up. That's okay. You're not concerned that from that you may start thinking that you could go ahead and heat up something in hot ash. That's the end of the Mishnah. Happens to be the halacha is, and this is very interesting, is that you can heat up something directly in the sun, but you may not heat up something that was heated up by the sun. Because you may heat up something in the sun, but you may not heat up something that was heated up by the sun. Let's say you left a pan outside and it got hot from the sun, and then you want to crack an egg on it. Or you want to put some water on it. Let's not talk about bishul right now, Okay, you're going. It could be the same thing. I think. Now you want to put something hot on that thing that was heated up by the sun. That you're not allowed to do, because that is more similar to something heated up by fire than when you're going directly in the sun itself. That's the halacha. That's the halacha. Now, so that's the point. If it's directly in the sun, it's okay. That's what Mishna says. Heated up by the sun, which Mishna doesn't talk about. The halacha is you cannot. Mi shenishru kela b'derech mamayim. Someone who was walking and his clothing fell off into water. It's got this, coat or whatever it may be, and even an outer garment, we would say this by, I believe. And it fell off, and it fell into the water. And now it's all wet. Mahalach behem, you could put it back on wet. The ein chay should not be concerned. What should you be concerned about? You might be concerned that people are going to look at this dripping garment and think that you washed it on Shabbos. So therefore, one might think that in that situation, you cannot wear the garments. And the answer is no, you may. Because basically, to walk around without a garment that you typically wear is considered embarrassing. And therefore, the sages said you're allowed to do it and not have to be concerned about people suspecting you of washing it. Now, let's say you're on the way, you're walking, and now you came to what they call the outer courtyard. That means the assumption is that this person was walking outside of the city, and that's where there were these big puddles or whatever it is, or streams, whatever, and it fell down and it got wet. So we say you can put it back on. You don't have to walk in a way that you're undressed. That I don't mean completely undressed necessarily. That too, but to say even something that you would normally be wearing to cover yourself up. I don't know what we would say nowadays with a regular coat, a regular outer coat. But again, basically walking around with a typical outer garment, that would be embarrassing to walk without it. So we say that if it fell off on the way, you could put it back on and wear it wet. Now, but once you reach the outer courtyard of the city, the first courtyard, and that already was a private place in the sense that you could spread it out there to dry, and you're not going to be concerned that it's going to be taken away or anything like that. So then once he reaches the outer courtyard, he can spread it out to dry out. But he should not do that in front of people. If you're going ahead and you're wearing it, that's one thing. But now you want to take it off to dry. So we say that when you get to a place where you could take it off to dry, and I think part of the issue before, not sure if I saw this here, 1 second. Yeah, all right. So now we came to this place where he can take it off and spread it out and dry and not be concerned about it. It's safe. Right? We say you can do it there, but don't do it in front of people. If people are going to see you doing it, then it's a problem, because then we will be concerned that people will suspect that you washed your clothing. So while you're in public, so then we say you don't have to be concerned with that. You don't have to basically embarrass yourself because of that concern. However, once you're already in a private area where you can take it off and everything would be safe. In that situation, you cannot take it off if there are people around, because they might suspect that you're drying it out because you washed it. Now, that's the din of the Mishnah. The commentaries point out here that actually the halacha is that you really cannot do it in the courtyard either. Because what's the problem? Why is the Mishnah concerned with doing it in front of others? Because of what we call marasayan, right? And the people are going to suspect you did something wrong. You didn't do anything wrong, but you're doing something that brings suspicion upon you. Okay, so the Mishnah says, well, if that's the issue that's going to bring suspicion upon you, if nobody's around, then you're good, right? That's what the Mishnah holds. But we paskin that we follow the opinion that anything you cannot do because of maris ayin, anything you cannot do because people would suspect you, you cannot even do that in the privacy of your home. That's the rule. We don't differentiate. So therefore, this guy's got to wait till, I guess, when he gets home to be able to take this off. And maybe even then, what does he do about drying it? It could be a different story then once he actually gets home itself. Don't make him wear wet clothing the whole day. But basically, as long as he is some kind of a public area, of sorts, then we're going to say that he is not able to drive them out, even if nobody is there. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi.
So therefore, you can't.